Hey everyone, welcome back to ACT Math Quick Hits, where you can make this one small change and watch a video a day. It doesn't cost you any money, only costs you a little bit of time, and you're going to help improve your ACT math score. So there's the rundown of the math section of the ACT, so let's get back into it for today. All right, so today's question is a little different than what we've been dealing with, because it's a little more conceptual. So it says the product of two complex numbers x and y is a real number that is irrational. Which of the following statements cannot be true? All right, so I always hate these like cannot be true statements. So let's look at unpacking this question. So it says we're starting with two complex numbers. So let's draw a little bit here to try to figure out what we're dealing with. So we talk about complex numbers. Complex numbers usually contain a real part and an imaginary part. So, the variable representation of it would be something like that, a plus bi, right? Which could be 3 plus 2i or something like that. That's generally what a complex number indicates. It has to have this imaginary part to be complex. So that tells us right away that whatever we're starting with, right, we're multiplying two complex numbers together. They're just representing them with x and y, that they have to have an imaginary part. So that tells us right away that choice B has to be true because they both have to be imaginary. So choice B is a correct answer, right? Which means it's not going to be the answer we would pick because we're looking for something that cannot be true, right? So choice B would be true. Maybe I should use like a T for the stuff that's true, right? Like green for go and T for true. How about? All right, so this one has to be true. Let's go to this other part and unpack this, right? So it says the product of x and y is real and irrational. So more vocabulary here. Irrational just means a gross, terrible decimal answer. Values like pi or e or like square roots of other numbers usually are irrational. Like square root of 25 isn't irrational, but as we'll see later, square root of 2 is something that's irrational. And then real meaning there's no more imaginary parts, right? So real means our imaginary parts are going to cancel. All right, so let's go back to the rest of these answer choices. It tells us the product of x and y is negative. So we can have real negative numbers. Negative numbers are real, and they could also be irrational. So it seems like choice D, or it doesn't seem like it is, choice D is also a true value, not the hardware store. And then choice C says the product of x and y is the square root of 2. So we'd have to realize that the square root of 2 is something that's irrational, and this would be something that we could use Desmos to help us with. So it's not going to answer the whole question for us, right? But we could put the square root of 2 into Desmos and notice we do get that gross, terrible decimal. So that tells us that choice C is also true, right? So the only one of these that cannot be true is that both x and y are rational numbers. And so if we think about that, right, if you multiply a rational number by a rational number, right, let's just pick like 5 and 10, right, you're going to get 50. So every time that we multiply rational numbers together, we can't get an irrational number. So choice A is the one that is not true, right? Which is how we have to answer this question. I always call these like Borat questions because we're looking for the thing that is not true. All right. So thanks for watching, everyone. I realize that ACT math prep isn't the most exciting thing that's out there, but your future self will appreciate it if you like and subscribe. That way you can keep getting these quick hits, learn a little bit about the ACT, learn a little bit about math, learn when we can and can't use Desmos to help us. So thanks for watching, everyone.